morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Kynection Partner Spotlight podcast. My name is Phil Cruz, your host, and today we've got another special person here today, which is Rob Cedric from NDEVR. And say hi to your fans out there, Rob, because you've got plenty.
I'm not sure about that, Phil, but hello to everybody. Thank you for having me, Phil.
Thank you, mate. Now, I've known you probably since I started Kynection. You've been lingering around for the last 3 years. You've definitely been part of Kynnection's partnership a long time ago. And we did get a couple of wins together and some great solutions for customers. Now I want to build some more, kicking some goals with you as well while I'm in the rain as in my role currently now. But tell me a little bit about yourself. What intrigued you in the cloud space of ERPs, and how did you get to where you were today?
Okay, well, let me maybe start with a bit about NDEVR and then I'll jump into myself. So for those who don't know, NDEVR is an organisation. We've been around for about 26 plus years. We're an Australian IT consulting firm specialising in enterprise resource planning. So founded back in 1998, headquartered in Melbourne, and we're recognised for our expertise around implementing, supporting ERP solutions such as Oracle JD Edwards, Oracle NetSuite, and MYB Acumatica. For me personally, I've spent about 30 years in the industry. I like to think I have. I spent my foundation years in an organisation called Goodman Fielder for about 14 years, which was a great learning place for me. So I would like to say that my personal philosophy in what I do in business is driven around customer-centric activities and what I don't call it, but what I leverage called the servant leadership concept. So what that means in short term is basically everything I do is targeted at how I can support my customers. What it doesn't mean though is that I just do whatever they want me to do. I play a role challenging them to grow and move forward. But again, everything I do is about, is this the thing that's right for our customers and so on. So I'll go into a little bit more in a second, but that's a bit of a highlight of me, Phil.
Perfect, mate. And I love that because some customers just don't know what they want. So they need that guidance, that consulting approach. And I'm glad that you kind of sometimes have to kind of put them in their little place of what's realistic and what you need in their organization because you've done it for so long. But I love hearing that stuff. Excellent. It almost kind of takes off my first question, which I was going to ask you about. All the other VARs in the Acumatica space and the NetSuite space, they're all got their little secret sauce of how they run their organization. What is your secret sauce? What is your expertise, and how can you directly benefit not only the Kynection customers, but the people that we're working on together?
Yeah, so I like to, when I talk to others, differentiate ourselves a bit from other partners. And I don't think that differentiation is better or worse. It's more what excites us as an organisation is bigger, more complex organisations. So in the mid-market space, there's plenty of small organisations, 5 or 10 users. Look, don't be wrong, we'll sell to them as revenue, that makes some sense. But what actually excites us and what we're actually really set up to handle is those more complex organisations. And the one reason for that is we come from enterprise down to the mid-market conversation. So people like our organisation has been around for 26 plus years, as I said, with organisations in Australia like Vicinity, Downer Group, or even News Corporation in Australia on our JD Edwards side. In our mid-market side, organisations like Vast Renewables, who is a global organisation, Monza Australia, and even pretty important organisation called Flora Institute of Neuroscience and Mental Health down in Melbourne. So the people we want to work with and the people we believe we can actually make more of a difference with are those that are more complex and have a bigger, broader requirements. So, for many of our customers in NDEVR, we've had them for 20 plus years, and that says something else about us as an organisation. We pride ourselves on the relationships that we've built and sustained, because in 20 years people change. So and as I always say, it's somewhere in that 20 years, we hated each other. Something has happened, right? That's the reality of relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
So
right.
NDEVR has been really strong at being able to build relationships and sustain them over time. And I think that's a differentiator, and one of the reasons for that is delivering value. I'm very much about outcomes and how we get there, and NDEVR has done that in spades. So personally, what's unique about me, I think, is I mentioned earlier I started my life with Goodman Fielder. I've been in this space for 30 years doing business transformation, modernisation. But those labels change every few years as to what we want to call it, obviously. But I've been a process manager from way back in working with processes and doing it. But I've been a customer for a good chunk of my life. So when I'm sitting with organisations today who are my customers, I have a pretty strong empathy. In fact, I sit on our board at NDEVR, and I asked the question to the owner of the business when I first was offered to join the board, why me? What do I bring to the board that you want? And that was one of the things that my owner said to me. You really have an understanding of what customers are thinking and experiencing, and can put your hand up and say, stop, hold on, that's not necessarily what a customer needs or whatever. So I think that's a point of differentiation against maybe some other partners as such. Not that I see us competing with partners so much. I think we're more about finding the things that we want to work and focus on. So the last thing I wanted to say is I'm passionate about working with businesses to ensure they are future fit, and I'll go through this in a little while. But mainly, organisations that are ready to exploit leading edge business practices and technology that are either here today or coming. And there's a whole conversation you and I can have, Phil, about AI and how that's going to be a productivity engine for everything. I've just done a webinar myself on that. If you ask me to put into a single sentence, what do? I would say we help businesses identify and solve the right problems. And the right problem is really important in that statement, unlocking greater productivity and growth. So in a single line, that's what I think our purpose is. I hope that makes some sense.
Oh, mate, you put it really well there. And it's phenomenal that you've seen both sides of the table, from a customer perspective as well as from the implementation perspective as well. And I think that's truly a lot of value there. You understand, as you said, the empathy, you understand the pains and struggles that current customer has. And I love that you do those really complex customers. Like they're tough ones to do, and there's a lot of gatekeepers, a lot of approvals, there's a lot of structure in place. So being able to understand each department role and exactly what they want to get out of it is quite great. And I didn't realize you're on the board as well, so that allows you to put a bit of influence and really get the feedback from the customers directly to the owners of NDEVR, which is great. Yeah, that's perfect. Alrighty. How does the solutions that you offer with the cloud space, the cloud-based ERPs that you offer, address specific challenges that customers face? And let's pick a particular industry that we like. Let's look at field service. I think field service is a great one. Put you on the spot there, but what are specific challenges that you solve around field services with the offerings that you have?
Okay, I'll come back to the field service bit, because I think to get to know who I am, what we're about, I'm going to start with my future fit view of the world around Australia.
I like it.
Businesses. So the solutions that we bring to bear and our focus in the market overall is ensuring that businesses that we work with are what we call future fit. So first of all, future fit is a concept that Forrester came up with globally a while ago, and I love it, and I'll buy into it fully around being able to refer to the business capability model designed to help organisations become more adaptive, creative, and resilient to the fast-changing customer-centric world. What that means in short term is basically having the things in place that you can turn on a dime. This happened during the COVID era, obviously, that there were a lot of organisations that were better set up to be able to react to working at home and so on. But it's more than that, right? There are going to be economic challenges that we're seeing today with Trump and some of the decisions that he's made, right or wrong. But there's longer term things that are coming in, like AI, which is going to be embedded, and as I said, a productivity engine. So our solutions, whether they're cloud ERP, in my world, consulting services, or just advice that we provide as part of our role to our customers, are all about helping them on that journey to future fit. So Forrester tells us that global research says that if you can be a future fit organisation as defined, you're going to tend to grow about 2.8 to 3.2 times faster than others in your industry or other peers in your industry. So that's really important. And you're more capable of withstanding the market disruptions, responding to the customer needs that come through and driving innovation. That's where we get into the conversation, right? The purpose we have is helping organizations take that step. So that's what I say internally is our purpose, is to help organizations become future fit. The things that they're dealing with in the economy or just in marketing in general are pretty numerous. So, accessing talent's a big one. And just as a comment here, my very strong belief of the world, AI will be a differentiator in the coming years to where people choose to work as such. So if you think systems and solutions do not have a role to play in exciting talent, you're absolutely wrong, and you're going to be more wrong in the coming days.
Madness. Yeah.
So the other thing is, there's rising operating costs that are experienced in the world. There's globalization as the supply chain, and we've seen in construction building, just trying to get bloody timber a couple of years ago was difficult, right? So there's cash flow, working capital needs to be there. But then there's the real things that are going on, like cybersecurity and data protection, and that's happening in different ways. There's just building your solution so you can protect yourself, but also there's relating to the statutory requirements that are coming down from governments and so on, and being able to handle that. So we're seeing e-invoicing coming through for those in the government space, and we're going to see that extend out into other spaces and so on. But the other big ones are scaling operations. So people have gone broke as organisations with the inability to handle twice the revenue and having the process and structures in place. So digitization, which I hate that word by the way, it is very much about having yourself set up. So in Endeavour, we're really that foundation role or that sustaining role, depending on where you're at in your journey. So it's really important to me that we get customers or prospects to understand what they need to be. So I said earlier about my philosophy about servant leadership. A big role for me in sales cycles is not selling, it's communicating and sharing with the prospects I deal with at that time, why they need to be doing things. And everybody says to you, just tell me the value and I'll buy it. That's not how it works. You've got to actually get people to buy into where they need to be and what they need to be doing, as much as the value they're going to get from doing that. What I do know is insane in my head. There are so many organisations sitting on Xero that have been constrained for 10 years. They've outgrown it maybe 7 years ago, and they've convinced themselves it's okay, right?
Yeah.
They're probably even growing to a certain extent. And my job is to saying to people, once you get to a certain point, and I'm a lover of Xero for the right sort of business, don't get me wrong, but once you get to a complexity where you're adding on all these other things and so on, you've outgrown it, all right?
Exactly right.
I think that's part of the journey for me. So if you come back to the core question, what do our solutions address specifically? Very much about that journey to being the right future fit business. Now, I didn't ignore your question on field service. I'm going to come back to that. So field service is a really genuine, interesting thing in my world. One of the fundamental changes that we've seen, though, in the last number of years has been Elon Musk and the ability to point upwards for a Wi-Fi connection or an internet connection. And that's been a big change because I don't know, this is one of the things you guys are really good at, is having that offline capability make sense. But there's other options to do those things now. So for me, when I look at what we need to be doing in this field service offering, is understanding that there isn't somebody out there that just does field service. There's somebody that has a business that does an array of different things, which could be field service, projects, various elements, or projects just handle everything, right? So I very much see that area is being neglected, and I see, I've had a long relationship with Kynection. I see you guys fulfilling that. But I think what's really important here is now being able to go to those people in the field service industry, if you want to say that for a second, and be able to have an offering, not bits and pieces. So one of the things I value, and I'll come to this in our conversation with Kynection, is you're a chosen partner of ours. So we go with a solution, and it happens to include Kynection and the cloud ERP and maybe one other thing. But what it isn't is a best of breed concept, right?
Yes.
It's very much, we've considered how to connect this thing, close the loop, so it's part of your overall offering. Does that make sense, Phil, so far?
That's perfect, and that's exactly right. It just reins in so well and aligns exactly what we're trying to achieve together. It's a solution, the best of breed app out there, which a lot of organisations have. They've got the best of breed health and safety. They've got their scheduling, the fleet management, the telematics, but it can fall apart. And when you've got 6 or 7 apps, it's almost better to go back down to paper, Rob, because disjointed systems cause a lot more headaches. But yeah, I completely agree with you, mate.
So just to tell a quick story, Phil, we have a customer, I won't share their industry set, but they have a genuine reason for running a couple of different solutions connected to MYB Acumatica. But what they've done is they've invested the right level of money in bypass solutions to make sure that they've thought out how this has to hang together, but they still have to manage that, right? So yes, it's the right answer, but it's now something they have to manage for the rest of their life and invest in to keep going and so on. I used to work with Lion Nathan, before they were called Lion, a number of years ago with a solution I dealt with. And they were a middleware evangelist, millions of dollars every year to run middleware everywhere. As soon as the CIO left the organization, in came somebody else and just went to one system, right? You've got to think about this stuff as well. So I'm, as you'll hear in a second, I'm not an evangelist at all for having a best of breed. I think it constrains you. I think your comment a second ago about if you've got enough best of breed, you might as well go back to paper, is actually true. But what it definitely will do, and I know there's a focus in my AI conversation, it's going to hold you back in the future if the systems aren't connected well, because AI will be diminished in what you can do with it. You need models that are consistent and so on. So anyway, I won't go on.
Well, that's perfectly what you're saying about being future fit. Yes, it's great now, but when you start managing, you're not really future fit. And future fit to me, it's like being future adaptable or future proof, whatever it is. It's aligning the same thing. Yeah. So I completely agree. Yeah, it's not the future fit way. I like the future fit way. It sounds great.
It's not mine, but I've dived in deep to it because I genuinely believe it makes a difference.
It makes a sense. Yeah, absolutely. Before I go into this question, do you ever think if you start working globally, would there ever be tariffs on SaaS costs?
I don't think anybody could know what is in I'll give you an example. I think tariffs can be put on services. So yes is the answer to your SaaS costs, right? It's really weird and interesting, the world that we're in, because we have some things in Australia that we're putting on various services from overseas at various times and so on. And I think there can be retaliation in the conversation. So there is no reason why it can't. It's more likely, by the way, to not be an issue because there's things that will happen over time. But I think that's come back to the point of future fit, right? That's the uncertain world that we live in. And I would argue we've been in uncertainty for different reasons for a long period now. And I don't think uncertainty will totally go away. So whilst I don't think you have to react on a dime all the time, I think you have to have a future fit setup that allows you to evolve and maneuver, but at the same time, not jump at shadows. You still have to have strategy and direction for your organization.
Exactly right. Do you see any ways how the partnership can enhance overall customer experience?
Yeah, okay. So let me start answering this one because I like to tell you what I'm about. I'm a massive evangelist for a single unified cloud platform, and I strive to maintain this concept wherever possible. In my world, that means I hate customizations and try and talk customers out of it when they come up. In my Qantas days, when I had them as a customer, I was known as the great unseller because they used to love customizing everything, and I would try and stop them doing that. So where it makes sense, a customization should happen, right? So it's more about just making sure you understand the future costs. So in example of that, in my Qantas days, I used to do a customization cost and then put on 20% per year as an ongoing cost. Not that I was charging them that cost, but to reflect that, so they knew that, right? So if I start there, everything I want to do says I believe that we're going to achieve a more productive model if we go that process, right? That said, we actually handpicked a set of partners, which you guys are one, that reflect a need to extend at certain points in our offering where it makes sense. So I think this is really important. We have a small cohort of trusted solutions that we have vetted. We've ensured that it's adding value to our overall solutions for our customers or our prospects that we get to talk to. I'm not one of these ones, you can imagine, Phil, I get knocked on the shoulder every couple of days by somebody that wants to be a partner and talking about ROI and how it makes sense for our revenue and all that.
Yep.
I'm not the least bit interested in that. I'm looking for where do we have a partner that we can have a sustained relationship for 20 plus years, that we can actually have honest conversations. And that might mean someday, Phil, you and I don't like each other for a day or two because we've had a robust discussion, right? But that's what we want. So I want to come back to enhancing partnerships for us is we've chosen certain partners that are a handful, not hundreds, that fit and talk to our side. Look, we have ISVs, as I call them, or others call them, I leverage, that we can go to for a point solution, and that's fine. Now, that's not what partnerships are about. So for our customers that are active in the field service or asset maintenance area or whatever projects and so on, Kynection provides a solution perfectly, in our mind, married to our cloud ERP offering. So it's not so much fitting a gap or filling a gap, should I say, but rather enhancing the overall solution that we offer, ensuring that our customers are able to have great processes where it matters. So, if I think about you guys, you've got the RFID chips, or whatever you call them, tags.
Yep.
You go through. So we don't offer that. But we're not sitting there having a tracking conversation with an asset with somebody. That's where you guys round out our offering, as an example, right? So we think that by having the right partners like yourself, and we've got a couple others that I hold in great value, we're able to just go back to our customers or prospects and provide them with great processes and a closed loop. And this is important for me, that we've got this scenario where we're actually coming back to the cloud ERP in our world and closing the loop, rather than just punching it out to the side, let that system worry about. The number of people we talk to that put it on a CRM and they've got some basic connection, and they don't have the journey of the customer from day one to project completing, running support, or whatever it may be, right? So I think that's really important. Our partnership with Kynection team here, yourself included, is critical because it's driven together around a customer-first mentality. So I've already talked about my passion for servant leadership and all that, and drives the customer to our forefront. So what it means for me when I have discussions with Kynection is when we're saying inventory, where do we draw that line? Who should own inventory and so on? Rather than me coming from and saying, here, mate, it's going to cost me 10 licenses, I don't want to give up my inventory. I'm having discussions with you guys about what's the right answer for this customer. Where should inventory set? More importantly, I'm having that conversation early with our prospects or the customer to let them know that we don't know the answer yet, and we're open to where it should fit, rather than feeling like they're getting sold a result. And I think that's really important about having the right partners, where we can actually flex that line to the right place it needs to be. And God forbid, we might lose a bit of revenue on either side, but overall, we get greater outcomes for our customers. So for me, that's really important. And, probably thanks to you guys and the partners I've chosen, that you're mature enough to actually have those conversations with us. And I've not felt from you, Phil, and others that, don't take this the wrong way, but there are slimy partners out there for me that are protectionist, and they just want to get as much of the deal as possible. And, I don't want those guys necessarily in my life, right? I'd rather have people that are just an extension of us. So the customers feel they've just got an extension of NDEVR, and that they expect us to actually communicate and talk to each other. So, in a word, better outcomes.
Yeah, I like that. Better outcomes, very customer focused. We're happy to cop a couple licenses on the chin if they go across to the ERP, because at the end of the day, we're still part of the solution. And if they can grow with our solutions combined together, in the long run, it's going to pay off regardless. So it's not the short-term money we're after. It's the long-term SaaS of the licenses and the growth of the company.
There, Phil, here's one of the weird things I've learned over many years with the servant leadership philosophy. You actually still make money. It's really weird. Your business, if you think of your customers first and you drive your activities around your customer first, funnily enough, you actually make money from that concept. So,
exactly right. Yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot. Is there any innovative strategies that you guys personally are doing compared to some of the players in the game? Either if it's like, more of a HubSpot or a Salesforce play. This is where the AI stuff really comes in, hones in really well. But share some thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, I'm going to start with AI
Yep.
because it's a big driver in my world. I've just done a webinar myself on behalf of NDEVR with one of our cloud ERPs, but I think you can read this against, we deal with Oracle NetSuite and also MYB Acumatica, both are doing things down this path. There is an amazing amount of innovation coming through. There is an amazing amount of innovation available today. So my webinar I did was focus on, and putting that webinar together and finding my story to tell. I have become absolutely 100% on this.
You're an advocate.
Well, I think I said I'm an enthusiast, but I think what the other guys call. But I am sick of hearing this. Productivity is a problem in Australia. The government needs to do something about it. Rubbish, right? Government do whatever you can do, support it, all that sort of stuff. Businesses, get the right solutions in place that are going to enhance your productivity. AI is going to drive this, and it's productivity through, much like compound interest. You're going to see it in solutions all over the place in little events, right? But those little events will happen often and then drive outcomes of productivity that are immense. So, for example, just being able to read the data in a system and compose information based on that data in a better way, right? So if you're setting up a new product, you write 3 or 4 bullet points about that product, and then you press a button, and AI delivers you a really strong sales front end definition, maybe 4 paragraphs of that product. It's a lot better than AI in Google in the sense that we're not dealing with hallucinations, etc. as much. You might want to watch a couple of things, but it's about that kickstart. So I don't know about you. When I had to sit down and you said, "Oh, Rob, come and talk to us," I had to spend some time and think, where do I start? What do I need to do?
So much topics.
Yeah. And so AI is about getting rid of that, giving you a foundation to think about, and then get your voice around that foundation. But there's even other things. So just as an example, and this one I love it, is dashboards, right? Talking in normal collegial conversation, like I'm talking to you right now, Phil, into the system and say, I want revenue for the past 12 months on this. Actually, now can you define it by this, define it by... You've got AI being able to put dashboards into NetSuite in front of people in 2 seconds who have no skills whatsoever to build a dashboard, right? Hey,
the tool's already there. The tool's already there, which is great. Yeah.
So I think that we talk about innovation. A lot of our FY26 focus is one, how to communicate that innovation to organisations to help them understand what that role is, and 2, how to leverage that innovation into every day. The other thing, just talking to Kynection and where we see things happening in your world, I think what I want to do is in our FY26 plans is really enhance that relationship and be more focused on solving industry problems with you guys and targeted around how we do that. So maybe not true innovation necessarily, but out of that will come innovative solutions that are going forward. So I'm pretty excited about the next period. Now, I'm going to say a couple of things here that I think are important to understand Rob Sheldrick. I was totally against cloud at one stage in my life, could not understand why organisations would go. I'm totally for cloud and cannot understand why organisations in the mid-market side would not be leveraging all of that ability to be across multiple organisations throughout the world. I was against AI a while ago. It's fair to say, a marketing person don't do that now. What are you doing? I can see the real world need for AI and what it's going to do. And here is the thing that's really important around AI. We are not going to lose jobs to AI. There will be more people employed, whatever the other side is, of AI than were employed before, right? Never in any history of any major event have we ended up with less people employed. Sure, some jobs will change. Sure, there'll be some productivity, and we've seen this for years around AP automation, right? You'll have less AP clerks if you go down that path. But overall, a business will be better at what it does and be able to sustain the growth, and it will grow. right? We will see growth. Why do you have productivity requirements for economies? Because the economy grows, right?
Yeah.
That's the driver. So I'm really thrilled about where AI is going and what I'm seeing in the play. I think we've stepped past the concerns I had at one stage about were ERP organisations worldwide going to be considered about AI. I think they have been, and I'm comfortable with that. So there's going to be stories out there that are funny. So I'm not sure whether you heard, Phil, but there was a multi-billion-dollar business that turned out to be 6,000 people, resources over in India in different locations who were Googling and pretending to be an AI.
They were Googling manually. Yeah.
There will be these stories and we've got to laugh at them and so on. But we need to believe that's it. So when I talk about going back to future fit as a real belief in my world, AI is every bit about that. There will be organizations that will be sitting on detrimental solutions that are not empowered with AI, that might be on premise in small world, might be a Xero type thing, which can only do so much in the AI space and so on, who will be just held back. So they might even grow a little bit, but I can tell you all those other ones that are driving the productivity with AI solutions in the coming years will just, as long as they've got good products and good strategy and other things that are still important, they will do so much better. And I think it's a really, it's a watch for anybody out there that thinks AI is not something they need to be on. They've got to be sorting out their strategy right now.
Yeah. That's quite interesting. And 10 years ago, AI wasn't a thing. No one really spoke about it. The evolution of AI in the last 3 years has been out of control. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because there's still, I bump into customers where they just haven't adapted. And I guess instead of this last question, I kind of want to end the podcast on this question for you: is how do you discuss with a customer that is a bit hesitant to go down the AI path? Like, how do you kind of not really convert them, but show them the way of, this is where it's going. This is why you should go to get AI incorporated in order to get the future fit model that you're trying to think. How do you? Because I know plenty of people that just they're going to take over my jobs. They're I can't trust them. They're going to get hacked. Like, how do you overcome those kind of questions?
Yeah, look, there's a few things. So I'm going to just pick up the hacked one, by the way. We have no control over how AI will enhance the hacking side of things. So whatever people think and believe, they're not in the conversation there. They're in the conversation, right? So what we've got to do is trust that organisations that are focused on being that defence, the first line, are actually doing it. So here's my cloud ERP. I want to believe that Oracle, Acumatica, large global ERPs, leveraging Amazon or Oracle Cloud Infrastructure or whatever it may be, will largely do a better job than $100 million business putting some servers at the back. Right? And even if they have an external hosted partner that's $100 million as well, and they're often smaller, right? It just doesn't make sense to me. So I definitely have that conversation about who do you want to bet on, right, to be able to protect your business overall. And cloud introduces two-factor authentication, named user concepts, so we're moving from concurrent. Why to do that? Well, it protects your business better. you know what I mean? I was round an organisation in my life, not long ago, but before my time here, who got hacked, found that their backup testing had never actually worked. They ran these tests, but they never actually checked them, and lost their whole business systems overnight, right? And literally the business went bankrupt. So there is risk and so on, but I'm going to back the people that I think are going to stand up to that risk better than others as a first concept. The other part is I'm a pretty genuine guy. I'll get told off for saying trust me too much and all those things. But, I've learned, I'm pretty happy in my life right now. I don't need to have fake conversations with customers and so on. I don't think I ever did, by the way. So I think the way is just to share your knowledge. I'm a massive believer in exposure over experience. And what I mean by that is that you can have somebody that spent 10 years in finance and done a lot of things, or you might though come across somebody that's been an auditor for half of that time and seen all these different business operations and seen what people have done to try and break the systems and so on. That exposure is so much more valuable to the experience to me. So I did have both, by the way. So I think I bring exposure to the conversations with customers. I think because I started not being a believer and turned into an enthusiast, I can take them on my journey and why that is. But some of that is sitting them down and doing the webinar I did. That's why I did the webinar. I felt people were not, my customers and prospects were not looking at it with the right eyes and ignoring the risk of not getting on board. So my message to anybody now is, let's talk about what your concerns are. But at the end of the day, this can't be a conversation based on your risk concerns. This has to be a conversation based on productivity, growth, and things that you're going to miss out on if you don't get on board, right? And genuinely, I think, I talk about future fit businesses, 3.2 times growth over others in there. Genuinely, I think people that are not going to be these businesses, some of them will not exist. Now, I can't tell you that's 5 years or 10 years, but that won't happen because they'll realise that in a couple of years' time they've missed a boat and they're going to get on the boat, right?
Yeah, exactly right.
It might be far back. So just to cut to a one-liner for your question, I think my approach is to, as I always do, have a genuine open conversation. Don't teach people by yelling at them. Have a conversation with them. But I'm pretty strong and passionate about what I think, and customers respect that largely. There's always an exception to shut up, Rob, but
That's a perfect way to end it. Perfect, mate. Thank you for your time, Rob. That's very insightful. I think we're going to get some really intrigued listeners, particularly around that last question and around that piece. But I want to thank you for your time. I look forward to kicking some goals together and collaborating and providing solutions to these needed customers, particularly the ones that are outgrowing Xero and QuickBooks and Reckon, and they need an ERP solution. And it's great to have people like you in that industry that just knows the challenges and what is required to streamline their business and to essentially get growth and make themselves future fit. Thank you for your time, Rob.